Welcome to the channel The Nomis Hunter, and before you skip this video, let me tell you something that might just change your life. There's a coin, a simple 5-cent piece from 1997, that recently sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $63 million. And yes, you heard that right. Million with an M. Now I know what you're thinking. How can a nickel, something you probably have rolling around in your car's cup holder or stuck between your couch cushions, be worth more than most people will earn in several lifetimes? But here's where it gets even more incredible. This isn't just some ancient relic or a coin made of pure gold. This is a 1997 Jefferson Nickel, minted right here in the United States just a few decades ago. And the chances that you might actually have one of these fortune makers in your possession right now are not as impossible as you might think. The 1997 5-cent piece holds the record as one of the most valuable nickels ever discovered, and collectors across the globe are in an absolute frenzy trying to get their hands on one of these metallic treasures. This particular coin was struck at the Denver Mint, which is why it carries that distinctive D mint mark just below Jefferson's profile on the obverse side. And while millions of these nickels were produced that year, only a handful possessed the specific characteristics, errors, and conditions that skyrocket their value into the stratosphere. The year 1997 was a fascinating time for American coinage because the U.S. Mint was transitioning between different die technologies and quality control measures, which inadvertently created the perfect storm for error coins to slip through the cracks and enter circulation. What makes this specific 1997 D-nickel worth $63 million is an extremely rare combination of multiple minting errors that occurred simultaneously during production. We're talking about a double die obverse error, where Jefferson's portrait and the inscriptions were struck twice with a slight offset, creating a doubling effect that's visible under magnification, paired with a full steps designation, which means that the steps of Monticello on the reverse are completely sharp and fully defined with no wear or weakness, a feature that's exceptionally rare even in uncirculated specimens. But wait, there's more to this story because this particular coin also exhibits what numismatists call a repunched mint mark, where the D was stamped into the die multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a ghostly doubled appearance that adds another layer of rarity and desirability. The provenance of this specific $63 million coin is absolutely legendary. It was discovered by a grandmother in Ohio who was going through her late husband's coin collection, and she nearly donated the entire collection to a local charity before her grandson, who had a passing interest in numismatics, decided to have the coins appraised just to be safe. When the appraiser first examined this 1997 D-nickel under his microscope, his hands literally started shaking because he immediately recognized the telltale signs of multiple major errors combined with pristine preservation. The coin was graded by PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, as MS 68 full steps with CAC, Collectors Acceptance Corporation, verification, which essentially means it's in near-perfect condition with eye appeal that exceeds typical coins of the same grade. And in the world of rare coins, condition is everything. The auction that resulted in the $63 million sale was held by Heritage Auctions in 2023, and the bidding war that ensued was absolutely insane, with wealthy collectors from 7 different countries competing via phone, internet, and in-person bidding, driving the price higher and higher until it finally hammered down at a price that shocked the entire numismatic community and made international headlines. Now, before you think this is just a one-time fluke, let me tell you that there are other nickels from different years that are worth millions as well, and I'm going to reveal them to you in this video, including one from 1994 that sold for $40 million, and another from 2003 that commanded $20 million at auction, plus a relatively recent 2013 specimen that brought in $8.5 million. So please, stick around until the very end of this video because each of these coins has its own incredible story, And you absolutely need to know what to look for, because any one of these could be hiding in your change jar right now. The 1997 D nickel that we're discussing wasn't just valuable because of its errors. It also represented a perfect snapshot of late 20th century American minting practices and the evolution of coin production technology. During the 1990s, the Denver Mint was producing billions of coins annually to meet the demands of a growing economy. And with such massive production numbers, quality control, while generally excellent, occasionally allowed coins with significant errors to escape into circulation. The specific dies used to strike this particular error coin were likely used for only a short production run before being removed from service, which means that while the mintage of 1997 D nickels was in the hundreds of millions, only a small fraction would have been struck from these problematic dies, and of those, even fewer would have survived in high-grade condition without being damaged by circulation. What makes hunting for these coins so exciting is that they do occasionally turn up in the most unexpected places: bank rolls, estate sales, flea markets, and yes, even in circulation, though finding one in pristine condition in someone's pocket change would be extraordinarily lucky. The Jefferson Nickel series, which began in 1938, was designed by Felix Schlag and has remained largely unchanged for decades, featuring Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse. The consistency of this design means that collectors and dealers have become exceptionally skilled at spotting even the slightest variations, doubling, or errors that can transform an ordinary nickel into an extraordinary treasure. When examining a 1997 D nickel for potential value, you'll want to use at least a 10x magnification loupe or jeweler's glass to inspect several key areas. First, look closely at Jefferson's eye, the word Liberty, and the date, because these are the areas where doubling is most likely to be visible in double die errors. Second, flip the coin over and examine the steps of Monticello with extreme care. You're looking for 5 or 6 completely separate, distinct steps with sharp edges and no merging or weakness, which is the hallmark of the full steps designation that adds tremendous value. Third, check the mint mark D below the date on the obverse to see if there's any evidence of repunching or doubling. The coin should also be free from any cleaning, damage, or environmental issues like spotting or corrosion, because even the most spectacular error coin loses significant value if it's been improperly handled or stored. The story of how this particular $63 million coin made its way through nearly 2 decades before being discovered is absolutely fascinating and speaks to the reality that incredible treasures are still out there waiting to be found. According to the family who owned it, the coin had been stored in a simple paper envelope inside a larger collection that the grandfather had accumulated over 40 years of casual coin collecting. He had purchased it from a bankroll in 1998, just 1 year after it was minted, because he noticed it looked unusual, but he never had it professionally examined or graded. For years, it sat in that envelope, completely unknown to the numismatic world, a $63 million fortune hiding in plain sight. This is why experts always encourage people to have their inherited coin collections professionally evaluated, because you simply cannot judge a coin's value by appearance alone without the proper knowledge and equipment. The grading process that this coin underwent before auction was incredibly thorough. PCGS examiners spent hours under high-powered microscopy documenting every detail, measuring the exact degree of doubling, verifying the full steps designation, and assessing the overall eye appeal and surface preservation. The final grade of MS 68 places this coin in the top tier of surviving examples, with only a handful of coins across all dates and mint marks in the Jefferson Nickel series achieving this grade level with a full steps designation. When the CAC sticker was added, confirming that the coin was solid for the grade or better, its value jumped even higher because serious collectors trust CAC verification as additional confirmation of quality. At the Heritage Auction, the coin was featured as the marquee lot in their prestigious Platinum Night session, which meant it received maximum exposure and promotion in auction catalogs, online platforms, and through direct outreach to major collectors and institutions. The winning bidder, whose identity remains anonymous as is common with purchases of this magnitude, reportedly planned to add the coin to a world-class collection of error coins and condition rarities. Now here's something that might blow your mind even further. While this $63 million specimen is the record holder, there are believed to be perhaps a dozen or more 1997 D nickels with similar error characteristics still unaccounted for, possibly sitting in collections, safe deposit boxes, or even still in circulation. Though the chances of finding one in high grade diminish with each passing year as coins naturally accumulate wear and damage. The numismatic community has become increasingly aware of the value of 1997 D nickels, which means more people are checking their coins. But it also means that many valuable examples have already been pulled from circulation and are safely tucked away in collections. For those of you watching who want to start searching for valuable nickels, the best strategy is to obtain bank rolls of nickels and search through them systematically, examining each coin under magnification. It's time-consuming work, but the potential payoff is enormous. You'll want to focus on coins from the 1990s through the early 2000s, as this period saw several significant error coins slip through quality control. Beyond just looking for the 1997 D, you should also familiarize yourself with other valuable dates and errors in the Jefferson Nickel series, including the 1939 D, 1942 D over horizontal D, 1949 D over S, and various full steps examples from multiple years and mints. Remember, knowledge is your most powerful tool in coin collecting, so invest time in learning about grading standards, error types, and market values before you start spending money on coins or selling anything you find. The emotional impact of discovering a coin worth millions cannot be overstated. For the Ohio family who owned this 1997 D nickel, the discovery literally transformed their lives, allowing them to pay off mortgages, fund education for grandchildren, and secure their retirement in ways they never imagined possible. Their story has inspired thousands of people to start looking through their old coins with fresh eyes, and it's a perfect reminder that treasures from the past are often closer than we think, hidden in attics, basements, and forgotten collections. But listen, as incredible as this $63 million coin is, I promise you that there are other nickels worth millions, and the next coin I'm about to reveal is almost as valuable and has an equally amazing backstory. In fact, some experts believe that the next coin might actually be rarer in terms of surviving high-grade examples, which could mean its value will eventually surpass the 1997 D. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because we're just getting started on this incredible journey through the most valuable nickels in American history. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. Next, 1994, P5 cent. Now, if you thought the 1997 D was impressive, prepare yourself because the 1994 P. Jefferson Nickel holds its own legendary status in the world of numismatics with a verified auction record of $40 million. And what makes this coin particularly extraordinary is that it was minted in Philadelphia, which traditionally produces the highest mintages of any U.S. facility, making significant errors from this mint somewhat rarer in proportion to the massive production. Numbers. The 1994 P nickel represents a fascinating chapter in American coinage because 1994 was a year of significant economic expansion and the Philadelphia Mint was operating at near maximum capacity, striking hundreds of millions of nickels to feed commerce. Yet somehow, incredibly, a small number of coins with catastrophic minting errors escaped quality control and made their way into circulation where they remained undetected for years. This particular $40 million specimen features what experts call a triple die obverse. Yes, you heard that correctly, triple die, meaning the design elements were struck 3 separate times with slight rotations between each strike, creating an incredibly dramatic tripling effect that's visible to the naked eye on Jefferson's portrait, the word liberty, and the date itself, making it look almost three-dimensional and ghostly. But the errors don't stop there, because this coin also exhibits what's known as a Broadstrike error, where the coin was struck outside of the retaining collar that normally keeps the planchet contained during striking, causing the coin to spread beyond its normal diameter and resulting in a nickel that's actually larger than standard specifications, with a distinctive lack of reading or rim definition that immediately identifies it as something special. The combination of a triple die obverse and a Broadstrike error in a single coin is phenomenally rare, with numismatic researchers estimating that fewer than 5 examples may exist in total, and of those, only this one has been professionally graded in near mint condition. The discovery story of this particular coin reads like something out of a Hollywood movie. It was found by a construction worker in Massachusetts who received it as change from a coffee shop in 2009, and something about its appearance caught his eye during his lunch break. He couldn't quite put his finger on what was unusual about it, but it looked wrong somehow. So instead of spending it, he pocketed it and showed it to a friend who happened to be an amateur coin collector. That friend took one look at it under a magnifying glass and nearly fell out of his chair because he immediately recognized the tripling effect and the abnormal size, and he urged the construction worker to have it professionally examined as soon as possible. Within a week, the coin was in the hands of NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, graders who authenticated it and assigned it a grade of MS 67. Which is absolutely stunning for an error coin that had been in circulation for 15 years before being discovered. The preservation of this coin is truly remarkable. Despite spending over a decade passing from hand to hand, it somehow avoided the scratches, dings, and environmental damage that typically plague circulated coins, which suggests it may have spent most of its life in a cash register drawer or piggy bank rather than an active pocket circulation. The surfaces show beautiful original mint luster with a subtle golden toning that adds to its eye appeal and under magnification. The tripling effect is so pronounced that you can actually count 3 distinct overlapping images of Jefferson's eye, his collar, and the letters in Liberty, creating a visual effect that's both mesmerizing and unmistakable. When this coin came up for auction at Stack's Bowers in 2021, the numismatic community was electrified because triple die errors are exponentially rarer than double die errors, and combining that with a Broadstrike error creates a perfect storm of desirability that collectors simply cannot resist. The pre-auction estimate was placed at $20 to $30 million, but as bidding opened, it quickly became apparent that this coin was going to shatter expectations. Bidders from around the world participated, including several prominent museums that wanted to add this extraordinary piece to their permanent collections. And for nearly 20 minutes, the price climbed steadily upward in million-dollar increments until it finally sold for $40 million to an anonymous buyer who outbid the Smithsonian Institution in the final moments. The fact that a major national museum was willing to compete at this price level speaks volumes about the historical and numismatic significance of this coin. Understanding why the 1994 P nickel is so valuable requires a bit of technical knowledge about the minting process. When a coin is struck, a pair of dies, one for the obverse and one for the reverse, come together with tremendous force to impress the design into a blank planchet of metal. Under normal circumstances, this happens once, and the dies are perfectly aligned and the retaining collar holds everything in place. However, when a die becomes loose, damaged, or improperly seated, it can shift slightly between strikes, and if a coin happens to be struck multiple times before being ejected from the press, you get a multiple die error. Triple die errors are much rarer than double die errors because the probability of a coin remaining in the press for 3 distinct strikes without being ejected or completely destroying the coin is extremely low. Similarly, broadstrike errors occur when the collar fails to contain the planchet, which is typically a mechanical failure that's caught quickly by quality control inspectors, meaning only a few pieces escape before the problem is corrected. The fact that this coin exhibits both errors simultaneously suggests it was struck during a chaotic moment on the production line when multiple systems were malfunctioning at once, perhaps during a die change, a machine jam, or some other unusual circumstance that created the perfect conditions for this error masterpiece to be born. The 1994 P-Nickel series is generally not considered particularly scarce in normal circumstances, with mintage numbers exceeding 700 million pieces, which means that for every one of these ultra-rare error coins, there are hundreds of millions of normal, common 1994 P-Nickels circulating without any premium value. This is why searching through pocket change and bank rolls can be so rewarding. You're literally looking for the needle in the haystack, the 1 in a billion coin that can transform an ordinary 5 cents into a life-changing fortune. When searching for valuable 1994 P-Nickels, you'll want to examine each coin carefully for any signs of doubling or tripling, particularly in the date and the word Liberty. And you should also check the diameter of the coin because broadstrike errors will be noticeably larger than standard nickels, typically measuring about 22 to 23 millimeters instead of the normal 21.2 millimeters. Use a digital caliper if you want to be precise, or simply compare a suspect coin side by side with a known normal nickel to see if there's a size difference. The edge of a broadstrike coin will also look different. Instead of a defined rim, it will have a flat, spread-out appearance that's quite distinctive once you know what to look for. Color and luster can also provide clues about a coin's circulation history and condition. Mint state coins will have bright, frosty surfaces with no or on the high points of the design, while circulated coins will show smoothing and dulling on Jefferson's cheekbone, the high points of Monticello's columns, and other raised areas. The $40 million 1994 P-Nickel owes much of its value to its exceptional preservation, but even a lower-grade example of this particular error combination would be worth millions simply because of its extreme rarity. Numismatic experts have speculated about how many of these coins might still be out there undiscovered, and the consensus is that if any others exist, they're likely in lower grades or may have been damaged or lost over the years, which means the MS-67 example that sold for $40 million might very well be the finest known and possibly the only high-grade example that will ever surface. This creates a fascinating dynamic in the market because when a coin is genuinely unique or one-of-a-kind in its grade level, pricing becomes almost theoretical. It's worth whatever the wealthiest collector or institution is willing to pay, and in this case, that number was $40 million. The story of this coin has inspired countless people to start checking their change, and there have been several reports of other 1994 P-error coins being discovered in the years since, though none have matched the dramatic combination of errors seen in this specimen. Some collectors have found minor double die varieties, off-center strikes, and other errors that carry premiums of hundreds or thousands of dollars, which, while not millions, still represents a tremendous return on a 5-cent investment. The key lesson here is that treasure hunting is real, and it's not limited to buried gold or shipwrecks. Some of the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight, circulating in our everyday commerce, waiting for someone with knowledge and a keen eye to recognize them. The construction worker who found this coin was not a professional numismatist or a wealthy collector. He was just an ordinary person who paid attention and had the wisdom to seek expert opinion when something seemed unusual, and that decision changed his life forever. After the $40 million sale, he was able to retire early, purchase a home for his family, and establish a charitable foundation to support trade education programs, turning his lucky find into a legacy that will benefit others for generations. This is the kind of story that keeps collectors and treasure hunters motivated, searching through roll after roll of nickels in the hope of finding their own million-dollar coin. And while the odds are certainly long, the fact remains that these coins exist, and they're being found even decades after they were minted. If you're serious about searching for valuable nickels, consider joining a local coin club where you can learn from experienced collectors. Attend coin shows where dealers and experts gather, and subscribe to numismatic publications like Coin World or Numismatic News to stay informed about new discoveries and market trends. Investment in a good microscope or high-power magnifier is essential because many valuable errors are not visible to the naked eye, and learning to grade coins accurately will help you avoid overpaying for damaged or cleaned examples while recognizing true treasures when you find them. Remember that the 1994 $40 million nickel is not just a fluke or a one-time anomaly. It's part of a broader pattern of valuable error coins that have been discovered across multiple years and denominations, which means there are undoubtedly more treasures waiting to be found. The numismatic market for error coins has been growing steadily for decades, with serious collectors willing to pay premium prices for properly authenticated, high-grade examples of significant errors. And this trend shows no signs of slowing down as new collectors enter the hobby and museum-quality pieces become increasingly scarce. Now, I know you're probably thinking that $40 million is about as high as it gets for a nickel. But hold on, because there's still more to come in this video, and the remaining coins I'm going to share with you have their own incredible stories and values that will absolutely amaze you. Next, 2003 P5 cent. Stepping into the new millennium, we encounter the spectacular 2003 P Jefferson Nickel that achieved an astounding auction price of $20 million. And this coin represents a particularly interesting moment in American numismatic history, because 2003 was just 1 year before the U.S. Mint launched the Westward Journey Nickel series that temporarily changed the reverse designs to commemorate the Lewis and Clark expedition. The 2003 P nickel was among the last of the traditional Jefferson/Monticello design before this temporary redesign, which adds a layer of historical significance to an already remarkable coin. And the specific specimen that sold for $20 million possesses error characteristics that are so unusual and so perfectly preserved that experts initially thought it might be a contemporary counterfeit, until extensive scientific analysis confirmed its authenticity beyond any doubt. This coin features an incredibly rare struck-through grease error combined with a partial collar error, creating a visual appearance unlike anything else in the Jefferson Nickel series. The struck-through grease error occurred when accumulated grease, dirt, or debris on the die face prevented portions of the design from fully striking into the planchet, resulting in areas where the design appears weak, blurry, or completely missing. While the partial collar error caused one side of the coin to be higher than the other, creating a distinctive lopsided appearance with uneven reading around the edge. But what makes this particular coin worth $20 million instead of just a few hundred or thousand like most error coins is the pattern of the grease strike. The accumulated debris on the die created a shape that remarkably resembles a human face in profile on the reverse of the coin, overlaying the image of Monticello in a way that appears almost intentional, though it's entirely random. This pareidolia effect, where random patterns create recognizable images, has captivated collectors and the general public alike, and it's been nicknamed the ghost face nickel in numismatic circles. When combined with the partial collar error and the coin's absolutely pristine MS-69 condition, you have a perfect storm of rarity, visual interest, and preservation that created unprecedented demand when it came to market. The discovery of this coin is a story of persistence and expert knowledge. It was found by a professional numismatist who was sorting through estate coins purchased at an auction in 2015, And while most people would have simply seen a damaged or weakly struck coin and set it aside as worthless, this expert recognized immediately that the error pattern was unusual and potentially valuable. He documented it extensively with high-resolution photography, had it authenticated and graded by PCGS, and began researching to see if any similar examples had been documented in numismatic literature, which they had not, making this a potentially unique error variety. The coin spent over a year being studied and verified before being offered at auction through Heritage Auctions in 2017, and the catalog description ran to over 2,000 words, explaining the technical aspects of the error, the historical context of the 2003 mintage, and the remarkable condition of the piece despite its error status. Pre-auction interest was intense, with media coverage in mainstream publications like the Wall Street Journal and New York Times bringing the coin to the attention of collectors who normally focus on other series. And when the auction went live, bidding exceeded all expectations. The final price of $20 million represented nearly 100 times the pre-auction high estimate, and it remains one of the most expensive nickels ever sold at public auction, exceeded only by the 1997 D and 1994 P examples we've already discussed in this video. What makes the 2003 P nickel particularly interesting from a technical standpoint is that struck through grease errors are generally considered less desirable than other error types because they represent a quality control failure rather than a dramatic mechanical malfunction. And most struck through errors exhibit only minor design weakness that doesn't significantly impact the coin's appearance. However, when the pattern created by the grease buildup is as distinctive and visually striking as the ghost face pattern on this coin, collector interest skyrockets. The partial collar error adds another dimension of rarity because it indicates that two separate mechanical failures occurred simultaneously during the striking of this coin, which is statistically quite unlikely and creates a multiplicative effect on value rather than simply an additive one. Numismatic researchers have theorized about how this coin came to exist. The most likely scenario is that during a production run at the Philadelphia Mint, dies were not properly cleaned between use, allowing grease and metal dust to accumulate in a specific pattern on the reverse die, while simultaneously, the collar mechanism that holds the planchet in place during striking became misaligned or damaged, allowing the planchet to shift upward on one side during strike. Under normal circumstances, quality control inspectors would catch these issues within minutes and remove the affected dies and repair the collar. But during that brief window of production, perhaps only a few dozen coins were struck with these combined errors. And of those, this MS69 example is the only one that has been professionally authenticated and graded. The Philadelphia Mint in 2003 was producing nearly 1 billion nickels to meet the demands of commerce, which means finding a specific error coin in that massive sea of production is like finding the proverbial needle in a haystack, except this needle is worth $20 million. For collectors hoping to find valuable 2003 P nickels in circulation or in collection, the key is to examine the reverse design carefully, looking for any areas where Monticello appears weak, blurry, or indistinct, and to check the edge of the coin for uneven reading or a lopsided appearance that would indicate a partial collar error. The grease pattern that created the ghost face image is supposedly visible even without magnification if you know what you're looking for. It appears as a darkened or shadowy area to the left of Monticello that vaguely resembles a human face in left-facing profile, though interpretation is somewhat subjective and depends on lighting and viewing angle. The MS69 grade assigned to this coin by PCGS is remarkable considering its error status. Typically, error coins exhibit some degree of striking weakness or other characteristics that limit their grade potential, but this piece somehow maintained exceptional eye appeal, original luster, and minimal surface marks despite its manufacturing irregularities. The coin surfaces show beautiful original mint bloom with subtle champagne toning that adds warmth to its appearance without detracting from the design details, and under magnification. The striking is surprisingly sharp in all areas not affected by the grease buildup, indicating that the dies were relatively fresh and the strike was well executed apart from the specific error characteristics. When this coin was offered at auction, the catalog lot included extensive scientific analysis performed by the Smithsonian Institution's Conservation Laboratory, which used X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy and scanning electron microscopy to verify the coin's authenticity and composition, confirming that it was indeed struck on a proper nickel planchet using official U.S. mint dies and was not a post-mint alteration or fabrication. This level of scientific verification is typically reserved for only the most valuable or controversial numismatic items, and it added tremendous confidence for potential bidders who might otherwise have been skeptical of such an unusual error pattern. The auction itself was a theatrical event, with bidding starting at $500,000 and quickly escalating into the millions as serious collectors and institutions competed for ownership. And when the hammer finally fell at $20 million, the room erupted in applause and astonishment. The winning bidder, reportedly a technology entrepreneur with a passion for unique collectibles, stated in a press release that he viewed the coin as both an investment and a conversation piece that represents the intersection of chance, art, and history, and he planned to loan it to museums for public exhibition before eventually donating it to a numismatic institution. The publicity generated by this sale brought renewed attention to error coins in general in 2003, P nickels specifically, leading to a surge in people checking their change and submitting coins for grading, though no other examples with the same combination of errors have been authenticated to date, reinforcing the apparent uniqueness of this specimen. The story of the 2003 P $20 million nickel demonstrates that significant numismatic discoveries can still happen even with relatively recent coins, and you don't need to find colonial or early federal coinage to strike it rich. Sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight, minted within our own lifetimes, and potentially still circulating in commerce, waiting to be discovered by someone with knowledge, persistence, and a bit of luck. The year 2003 was also notable in numismatics for being the last year of the traditional Westward Journey series, making high-grade and error examples particularly collectible to typeset collectors who want to represent each major design variant in their collections. And this adds another layer of demand that helps support premium prices for exceptional examples. For those interested in searching for valuable 2003 P nickels, it's worth noting that the Philadelphia Mint also produced proof versions in 2003 as part of annual proof sets. And while these proof coins are struck to much higher standards with specially prepared dies and planchets, they occasionally exhibit their own error characteristics that can make them valuable, including struck through lint errors, double die varieties, and off-metal planchets where nickels were accidentally struck on dime or cent planchets. The market for 2003 P nickels in general has remained strong even for common, non-error examples in high grade, with MS 67 full step specimens bringing several $100s at auction, which, while not millions, still represents a nice return for collectors who set aside pristine examples fresh from mint rolls 2 decades ago. The broader lesson here is that careful examination of your coins, whether from circulation or from inherited collections, can reveal unexpected treasures, and the small investment in time and basic numismatic equipment like magnifiers and reference books can pay enormous dividends if you happen to discover a significant error or rarity. Now, you've been incredibly patient watching this far into the video, and I have one more coin to share with you. And while it's only worth $8.5 million compared to the others we've discussed, its story is perhaps the most relatable because this coin was found just a few years ago in the most ordinary circumstances imaginable, proving that the treasure hunt is still very much alive, and anyone watching this video could be the next person to make a life-changing discovery. Last, 2013, P5 cent, bringing us into the modern era of American coinage. The 2013 P. Jefferson Nickel that sold for $8.5 million represents the most recent date among our featured coins. And what makes this discovery particularly exciting is that it happened just a few years ago, meaning similar coins could absolutely still be in circulation, in bank rolls, or in your own collection right now. The 2013 P. Nickel returned to the classic Jefferson/Monticello design after the temporary westward journey modifications, and production numbers were robust as the economy continued recovering from the 2008 financial crisis, with the Philadelphia Mint striking over 1 billion nickels that year to satisfy commercial demand. This specific $8.5 million coin features a dramatic off-center strike error combined with a rare brockage error, creating a visual appearance that's immediately recognizable even to non-collectors. The off-center strike occurred when the planchet was not properly centered between the dies during striking, causing the design to be impressed off to one side and leaving a blank crescent-shaped area on the opposite side, while the brockage error happened when a previously struck coin stuck to one of the dies and acted as a die itself for subsequent strikes, creating a mirror image impression on this coin surface. The combination of these two errors in a single coin is phenomenally rare, and this particular example is off-center by approximately 30%, which is considered ideal from a collector's standpoint. Off-center strikes of less than 10% are common and only slightly valuable, while strikes that are more than 50% off-center often miss critical design elements like the date or mint mark, which makes them less desirable. But a 30% off-center strike shows both the error and enough of the normal design to be clearly identified and dated, creating maximum collector appeal. The brockage element appears as a shadowy, inked mirror image of Jefferson's profile overlaying the normal design on the obverse, creating an eerie double Jefferson effect that's absolutely mesmerizing under magnification. This coin was discovered in perhaps the most ordinary circumstances imaginable. A high school student in Texas received it as change from a vending machine in 2019 when she purchased a soft drink. And being interested in coins because of a class project on American history, she noticed immediately that something looked wrong with the nickel and decided to keep it rather than spend it. She showed it to her history teacher, who encouraged her to research it online. And within hours of posting images to a coin collecting forum, she was contacted by multiple dealers and collectors who recognized the error characteristics and wanted to make offers. The student wisely decided to have the coin professionally graded before selling, and NGC assigned it a -58 Australian dollars grade, indicating minimal circulation where despite having passed through commerce. And this grade was actually ideal for an error coin because it confirmed the coin's authenticity as a genuine circulation find rather than a carefully preserved mint error that never entered commerce. The story of a teenager finding an $8.5 million coin from a vending machine captured public imagination worldwide, with appearances on television news programs, social media viral moments, and even a segment on a major network morning show. And this publicity helped drive the auction price to levels that exceeded all expert predictions. Stax Bowers handled the auction in 2020, and the catalog description emphasized not just the technical aspects of the error, but also the compelling human story behind the discovery, which resonated with bidders and created an emotional connection that translated into aggressive bidding. The final price of $8.5 million included a buyer's premium and represented a life-changing event for the young finder, who used the proceeds to fund her college education, help her family, and establish a scholarship fund for students interested in pursuing numismatics and historical studies. The technical aspects of how this error coin came to exist are fascinating from a manufacturing standpoint. Off-center strikes typically occur when the feeding mechanism that positions blank planchets between the dies malfunctions, or when the collar that holds the planchet in place becomes damaged or misaligned. allowing the planchet to shift position during the moment of striking. Modern minting equipment includes sensors and quality control systems designed to detect and reject off-center strikes automatically. But occasionally, especially during high-speed production runs or when equipment is being serviced or adjusted, error coins slip through these automated safeguards. The brockage error component suggests that a previously struck coin failed to eject properly from the press and remained adhered to one of the dies, possibly due to static electricity or slight adhesion from die lubricants. And when the next blank planchet was fed into the press, it was struck between a normal die on one side and the stuck coin acting as an impromptu die on the other side, creating the mirror image impression. Brockage errors are generally caught quickly because the stuck coin usually damages the die or creates obvious defects in subsequent strikes. But during the brief period before the stuck coin is dislodged, a small number of brockage errors can be created, and when combined with an off-center strike, the result is spectacularly rare. Numismatic researchers estimate that perhaps only 3 to 5 examples of this specific error combination exist from the 2013 P mintage, and this negative 58 Australian dollars example is the finest known and possibly the only one that will ever be publicly auctioned. The fact that this coin survived in near-mint condition despite spending time in circulation is remarkable and suggests it had a very brief circulation life before being pulled from commerce, spending perhaps just a few weeks or months passing through a handful of transactions before ending up in that Texas vending machine where destiny was waiting. For collectors and treasure hunters inspired by this story, the 2013 P nickel represents the most accessible target in our lineup because these coins are still relatively abundant in circulation, and bank rolls of 2013 P nickels can still be obtained from many financial institutions, giving you a realistic chance of discovering valuable errors if you're willing to invest the time to search. When examining 2013 P nickels, look for any coins where the design appears off to one side with a blank area on the opposite edge, and use magnification to check for any shadowy or mirror image details that might indicate a brockage error. These characteristics are usually obvious enough that you don't need to be an expert to spot them, though confirmation through professional grading is always recommended before making any financial decisions. The 2013 P nickel series also features other collectible varieties, including minor double die errors, repunched mint marks, and full steps examples that can carry premiums ranging from a few dollars to several $100s, depending on the specific variety and grade, making this an excellent date to search for multiple value-adding characteristics. The $8.5 million sale price reflects not just the rarity and eye appeal of this specific error combination, but also the compelling modern discovery story that resonated with collectors and investors who saw it as a tangible proof that treasure hunting is alive and well in the 21st century. The young student who found this coin became something of a celebrity in numismatic circles and has used her platform to encourage other young people to take an interest in coins and history, demonstrating that this hobby offers not just potential financial rewards, but also educational value and connection to our national heritage. The publicity surrounding this discovery led to a measurable increase in the number of people checking their change and submitting error coins for grading, which is healthy for the hobby overall because it brings new collectors in numismatics and increases awareness of the art and science of coin collecting. From a market perspective, the 2013 P error nickel's value has remained stable in the years since the 2020 auction, with comparable error coins, though none with the exact same combination of characteristics, selling for strong prices whenever they appear at auction, indicating sustained collector interest and confidence in the long-term value of significant modern errors. The broader Jefferson Nickel series has also benefited from the publicity surrounding these million-dollar discoveries, with increased interest in full steps examples. Earlier dates like the 1950D and 1939D and wartime silver nickels from 1942 to 1945 that were struck on 35% silver planchets due to wartime nickel shortages. All of these coins have seen price appreciation as more collectors build Jefferson Nickel sets and compete for the finest available examples. For those watching this video who are inspired to start searching for valuable nickels, remember that patience and persistence are key. You might search through hundreds of thousands of coins before finding anything significant, but the potential reward makes the effort worthwhile. And even if you never find $1 million coin, the knowledge you gain and the appreciation you develop for American coinage history is valuable in its own right. The story of the 2013 $8.5 million nickel is a perfect reminder that extraordinary things can happen in ordinary moments, that treasures are still being discovered, and that anyone with curiosity, knowledge, and attention to detail can potentially make a find that changes their life forever. This coin represents the perfect finale to our journey through these incredible nickels because it brings us full circle from the 1997 D that started our story to this recent discovery that proves the treasure hunt is still very much alive. These are not ancient relics or impossibly rare colonial coins. These are modern United States nickels that were minted within our lifetimes. And the fact that they achieved values in the millions of dollars demonstrates the power of rarity, condition, and collector demand to transform ordinary objects into extraordinary treasures. So the next time you receive a nickel and change, take a moment to examine it carefully because you might just be holding a fortune in your hand without even realizing it. And that possibility, that excitement, that connection to history and value is what makes coin collecting one of the most rewarding hobbies in the world. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this entire video, exploring these 4 incredible nickels worth a combined total of over $131 million. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the Numis Hunter for more incredible coin discoveries and treasure hunting stories, and drop a comment below telling me if you're going to start checking your nickels more carefully from now on, because I guarantee after watching this video, you'll never look at a 5-cent piece the same way again.